see if this works out. I don't know if this is a good idea. Every now and then, like, I'll do these videos and it's like I didn't plan it much, and I have this way of sticking my foot in my mouth before I even open it. It's like I talk first and then I think afterwards, which is very common for alcoholics. Anyways, so I wanted to do an honest inventory today, but I didn't want to do it like specifics because I felt like I was trauma dumping and I was being a fucking asshole. And if I don't have facts, regardless of what people think or people insinuate, when I don't have an actual concrete fact, because I was thinking about this the other day, I was like, how many facts do I have for this thing that's been insinuated, right? And I came down to, I have zero facts. I have insinuation and plausible deniability. And this is dangerous thinking and dangerous territory for alcoholics. We tend to run on fantasy, or we'll go to crazy places in our minds. We look and we scan for danger because most of us have some form of, I don't know, trauma or CPTSD, right? It's just hardwired into us. So we're always scanning for danger. So even when there isn't a problem, we're looking for problems, right? So I had to recharge, I had to reset. And for me, I'm still a little with the church, you know. I don't dislike people. I'm against the war before the troops, if that makes any sense, you know. And if they don't want to fight the war, I'm all for it, you know. I'm kind of like, you do what you need to do, you do you, boo, because you got one life, right? And I personally think that people should have more power to vote whether or not they want to do things, or, you know, sacrifice themselves in certain ways. Enough about that. I decided I had to replug. I decided I need to do more big book study, right? So I plugged into Joe and Charlie and I got right back into step 3 and I just kept listening. And I'm so glad I downloaded that Everything AA app because I really, really needed to do that. I could really feel the wheels of my alcoholism, my addiction turning. And a lot of people say, it doesn't have to be so complicated. And it's true, the solution is usually really, really simple. All we have to do is kind of do something like, for someone else, go to a meeting, plug into literature, you know, call someone in the program, get connected, that kind of stuff. I was very close to going to a meeting and then I realized I couldn't because I'm still waiting on getting my apartment sprayed. I don't want to track things in. I did very well to the point where the exterminator didn't even think I had bed bugs because I killed everything with my spray bottle. It was amazing. I got a dirt dump on sale for $55 and I just killed the shit out of everything. But there's poop stains everywhere from the bed bugs. So he could tell that. Or maybe he just didn't believe me. So then I had to go and catch one. So I had to wait for them to grow back and catch one and then kill it. Anyways, so I did. I went and I plugged in. A lot of people are going to say, this literature I'm about to tap into is just stories, don't do it. I believe that it's sanctioned literature in AA, the 12 and 12, just like the Alcoholics Anonymous Big Book, whatever edition, for a reason, because they felt it was going to be helpful literature. So it may not be authentic big book, it may not be simplified, and I do have opinions as to why it should be simplified your first time around in your first round of 12 steps, why it's so important to have it simplified as it is in the first 164 pages, or is it 67 of the big book? I can't remember, I haven't done it in a while. But it's really important because our brains are like squirrel. Our attention span is really, really bad. I've always had a bad attention span, regardless of what I was on or not on. But I find sometimes it's not even so much the substance, right? It's me, you know, and that doesn't mean I'm saying I can go out and drink or I can go out and just take a bunch of fucking opioids and I'll be okay. Absolutely not. Absolutely never. I was talking to my nurse about, you know, how that's something I never want to do unless I'm absolutely terminally ill and I'm definitely going to die. Then you can give it to me. But until then, I don't want it. Because I just don't want to feel that black hole in my soul again. I love the color black. I just didn't want to feel that emptiness, that antimatter. Okay, so when we talk about that spiritual sickness and finding a spiritual solution. It can also be translated into, using a little bit of psychology, the moral psychology. Okay, so even though I don't identify as a Christian, I agree with a lot of this because my higher power was not consistent with what the laws were being dictated in my early childhood. Like most people, surprise, surprise. So to have a loving, kind, higher power that's looking out for us, which is really, when you look at our Constitution, you look at our laws, you look at our rights and amendments, Selah, right? Anyways, I had to plug into some step 3. And I thought what I would do is just go through a few pages here in this 12 and 12 from 3 to 5, because we are in month 5, which is about step 5 with these readings in the daily reflections and the just for today. I find that this literature is transferable, and I think it's just important, period. So in step 3, page 38, second paragraph down, we realize that the word dependence is as distasteful to many psychiatrists and psychologists as it is to alcoholics. Like our professional friends, we too are aware that there are wrong forms of dependence. We have experienced many of them. No adult man or woman, for example, should be in too much emotional dependence upon a parent. They should have been weaned long before. And if they have not been, they should wake up to the fact. This very form of faulty dependence has caused many rebellious alcoholics to conclude that dependence of any sort must be intolerably damaging, that dependence upon a group or higher power hasn't produced any baleful results. To me, that's like 1930s, 1940s language, whenever that was written, about family codependency. And of course, programs like ACOA were formed because of this program here. Let me just go get the book. Hold on. Because I gotta still keep things in the computer. Amazing program. Amazing program. I haven't been to a meeting in a while. Things got a little difficult after a few things happened. But I'm gonna stop right here, and I'm gonna take some time to talk about the laundry list, because I find that everybody who qualifies for the program, which is most people in society, like I think it's most people. I think people who don't qualify for the program are in the minority, not in the majority. Honest to God. But through that, they started something called a laundry list. So this is for adult children of alcoholics. Okay. And this is the 14 traits of an adult child. 1, we became isolated and afraid of people and authority figures. 2, we became approval seekers and lost our identity in the process. 3, we are frightened by angry people and any personal criticism. 4, we either became alcoholics, marry them, or both, or find another compulsive personality, such as a workaholic, to fulfill our sick abandonment needs. Say it ain't so. 5, we live from a viewpoint of victims and are attracted by that weakness in our love and friendship relationships. 6, we have an overdeveloped sense of responsibility, and it is easier for us to be concerned with others rather than ourselves. This enables us not to look too closely at our own faults, etc. Or it gives me an excuse to procrastinate. I'm watching my soap operas. I don't have to clean up for the bedbug exterminator. All right. 7, we get guilt feelings when we stand up for ourselves instead of giving in to others. 8, we became addicted to excitement. 9, we confuse love and pity and tend to love people we can pity and rescue. 10, we have stuffed our feelings from our traumatic childhood and have lost the ability to feel or express our feelings because it hurts so much. Denial, not just a river in Egypt. 11, we judge ourselves harshly and have a very low sense of self-esteem. 12, we are dependent personalities who are terrified of abandonment and will do anything to hold on to a relationship in order not to experience painful abandonment feelings, which we received from living with sick people who were never there emotionally for us. 13, alcoholism is a family disease. We became para-alcoholics and took on the characteristics of that disease, even though we did not pick up the drink. That's an interesting one, because there are people who don't drink, who don't drug, who 100% qualify for ACOA. Not just that one on. And lastly, but not leastly, 14. Let me try that again. Lastly, not leastly, 14. Para-alcoholics are reactors rather than actors. Dun, dun, dun. So when we come back to step 3, there's a little saying I heard called 3 frogs on the log. You probably heard it. It's a very generic saying. There are 3 frogs on a log, and they all decided to jump into the water. They all stayed on the logs because, you know, they didn't take the action. Never mind. It sounded better in my head. Maybe if someone else said it. Okay, so anyways, I'm going to go back to this because this reminds me of my grandfather. My grandfather served in World War II. And he drank. He was a heavy, heavy drinker. I didn't know this. He was a heavy drinker, but apparently he stopped because he was that heavy temperate drinker who could actually see that it was affecting him. But I want to talk about actual alcoholics who were qualifiably alcoholic people who identified as alcoholics, who were in the program of Alcoholics Anonymous, okay, staying sober, not picking up a drink, who had to go, who were drafted to go fight in World War II, okay? So this is, again, on page 38. This is step 3. When World War II broke out, this spiritual principle had its first major test. AAs entered the services and were scattered all over the world. Would they be able to take up discipline and stand up under fire and endure the monotony and misery of war? Would the kind of dependence they had learned in AA carry them through? Well, it did. They had even fewer alcoholic lapses or emotional binges than AA's safe at home did. They were just as capable of endurance and valor as any other soldiers. Whether in Alaska or on the Salerno beachhead, their dependence upon a higher power worked. And far from being a weakness, this dependence was their chief source of strength. So, how exactly can the willing person continue to turn over his will or his life to a higher power? He made a beginning, we have seen, when he commenced to rely upon AA for the solution of his alcohol problem. So am I praying to Santa Claus? I guess is the big question. Do I have a Santa Claus God? Well, step 4 in this is going to tell you that the last thing you should do is have a Santa Claus God. As a matter of fact, step 1 is going to tell us that we should not have a Santa Claus God. And I'm going to go and see if I can find that reading right now. Okay, if you haven't picked this up, pick it up. It's really good literature. A lot of people will say it's just stories. It's no good. He was on LSD when he wrote it. I'm going to say that it's gotten between me and a drink more times than I care to count. You know, and if the literature or getting into the literature, opening the door for someone, asking someone how their day goes, asking someone if you can help them or doing something nice, showing up to a meeting, calling someone, checking in on someone, listening to a speaker tape. If it gets between me and a drink or me and an opioid, that's a win, you know, and maybe I didn't do the things I wanted to today, or I wasn't the person that I wanted to be today. I couldn't fix the world's problems, but I didn't drink. And that was the most important thing to me when I reconnected with the Joe and Charlie speaker tapes last night, was that it didn't solve all my problems, because I'm not going to have all my problems solved. Life is imperfect, and there's always stuff. There's always a learning curve going on, right, in life. And I have to learn to accept life on life's terms, whether I like it or not. It is what it is, and people are going to do what they're going to do. And I have to meet them where they're at. You know, I just heard someone talk about apologies and what a proper apology is. You know, apologizing out of fear doesn't count as an apology. You know, apologizing because I did something malicious and I didn't mean it, or I did mean it, you know, and saying I want to change my behavior, that counts as an apology. Right? And actually showing people that I changed my behavior too, changing and adapting to the world around me, and understanding and accepting that everyone has feelings and everyone is coming from a different place. And I have to respect that regardless of the filter where I'm coming from, you know, because we get very isolated in this disease. What was I talking about? The principle that we shall find no enduring strength. We first admit complete defeat is the main taproot from which our whole society had sprung and flowered. When we first challenge to admit defeat. Most of us revolted. We had approached AA expecting to be taught self-confidence, then have been told so far as alcohol is concerned, self-confidence was no good whatever. In fact, it was a total liability. Our sponsors declared that we were the victims of a mental obsession so subtly powerful that no human willpower could break it. Again, if you have a problem with God, good orderly direction. I agree with Gabor when he says it's not a moral dilemma. We're not bad people, but we do respond to moral psychology. We do kind of hang on to the idea that we want to be good people. We really want to be good people. We really want to try our best. We want to do our best. And that's why I think a lot of us do resonate with the doctor's opinion, which you find in the big book. I'm jumping around here, but anyways. It was obviously necessary to raise the bottom. The rest of us had hit to the point where it would hit them. Going back in our own drinking histories, we could show that years before we realized it, we were out of control, that our drinking even then was no mere habit, that it was indeed the beginning of a fatal progression. To the doubters, we could say, perhaps you're not an alcoholic after all. Why don't you try some more controlled drinking? Which for me is a death sentence. I don't have another relapse in me because I don't think I have another recovery in me. The first 5 years nearly gave me a fucking heart attack. So I have to keep that close as to why I don't pick up. For some people, they feel they can go out and come back and go out and come back. And I was definitely a fucking asshole for years. I definitely took my health for granted. I definitely sought oblivion. The kind of oblivion that we seek, that's very suicidal. I felt like it was important, that I medicate to the point where I was just stupid, comatose, unable to see the forest for the trees, or unable to see things around me. That's how selfish I was, right? And it's interesting how we see the word selfish today. Like I'm blaming myself. I'm not really blaming myself. I'm more taking accountability because I have to take responsibility for my disease, right? I didn't cause it, I can't cure it, I can't control it, but I can respond, right? I can change the way I respond to things. A learning curve. More will be revealed. All right, so it was obviously necessary to raise the bottom. The rest of us had hit to the point where it would hit them. Going back in our own drinking histories, we could show that years before we realized it, we were out of control, that our drinking even then was no mere habit, that it was indeed the beginning of a fatal progression. To the doubters, we could say, perhaps you're not an alcoholic after all. Why don't you try some more controlled drinking? Bearing in mind, meanwhile, what we have told you about alcoholism. This attitude brought immediate and practical results. It was then discovered that when one alcoholic had planted in the mind of another the true nature of his malady, that person would never be the same again. Following every spree, he would say to himself, maybe those AAs were right. After a few such experiences, often years before the onset of extreme difficulties, he would return to us convinced he had hit bottom, as truly any of us. John Barleycorn himself had become our best advocate. Why all this insistence that every AA must hit bottom first? The answer is that few people will sincerely try to practice the AA program unless they have hit bottom. For practicing AA's remaining 11 steps means the adoption of attitudes and actions that almost no alcoholic who is still drinking can dream of taking. Who wishes to be rigorously honest and tolerant? Who wants to confess his faults to another and make restitution for harm done? Who cares anything about a higher power, let alone meditation and prayer? Who wants to sacrifice time and energy in trying to carry AA's message to the next sufferer? No, the average alcoholic, self-centered in the extreme, doesn't care for this prospect unless he has to do these things in order to stay alive himself. Iro, over here, easy does it, but do it. Under the lash of alcoholism, we were driven to AA, and there we discovered the fatal nature of our situation. Then, and only then, do we become as open-minded to conviction and as willing to listen as the dying can be. We stand ready to do anything which will lift the merciless obsession from us. So, we talk about the insanity of the disease. Once we get that into us, some people say it has something to do with swollen amygdala. Some people say it's about pain receptors and brain. Some people say it's about trauma. Some people say it's allergy. There's a lot of speculation as to why, but we try to avoid outside controversy as much as possible, because it seems like everyone's got an MK Ultra story, and then there's always someone hunting someone to kill someone. So fucking forget it, right? Like, that was awkward. I'm getting TMI again. Step 3, we made a decision to turn our will and our lives over to the care of God as we understood Him. So I do. I have a problem with the word God. Like a lot of alcoholics, it's my outstanding characteristic, my defiance. And I believe that my distrust of religion, like many others who come into this program who do not trust religion, who have either learned to play God at home, or as their disease progressed, their alcoholism, they're using, whatever, we learned that society cannot be trusted. Therefore, we should not be the type of people you can trust, because if you can take advantage of us, then we die. So our ego is tied to our survival. Ego, edging God out, being forged in the fire of having to survive the unsurvivable. It is what it is, right? So for a lot of us, we have a lot of defiance towards religious institutions, towards the church, and this is why they say, you find a higher power that is loving and caring, okay? And if you do have a hard time thinking about what that is, just look at what our laws say. Look at what your civil rights are, what your civil rights and amendments are in our Constitution, whether that be in Canada or America. Why are our laws that way? Because a lot of us don't look at that. And lately they are not in fashion to talk about at all. But are they a remedy that kind of maintains cohesion within society and restores justice and faith in humanity? Abso-fucking-lutely. Yeah, what's wrong with that? It doesn't matter what religion you are or not. If you can just follow the law, right? That in itself is good enough. But that isn't always easy. And it's not always practical, right? For a lot of people. We live in a day and age where unemployment is super high. You won't survive if you follow the law. Especially rat people who don't do that. Step 4, made a searching and fearless moral inventory of ourselves. Okay, so I'm going to go through the first paragraph here. Creation gave us instincts for purpose. Without them, we wouldn't be complete human beings. If men and women didn't exert themselves to be secure in their persons, made no effort to harvest food or construct shelter, there would be no survival. If they didn't reproduce, the earth wouldn't be populated. If there were no social instinct, if men cared nothing for the society of one another, there would be no society. So these desires for the sex relation, for marital and emotional security, and for companionship, sorry, I don't know that word very well. I'm not a very good partner. And for companionship are perfectly necessary and right, and surely God-given. Yet these instincts, so necessary for our existence, have often far exceed their proper functions. Powerfully, blindly, many times, subtly, they drive us, dominate us, and insist upon ruling our lives. Our desires for sex, for material and emotional security, and for an important place in society often tyrannize us. When thus out of joint, man's natural desires cause him great trouble. Practically all trouble there is. No human being, however good, is exempt from these troubles. Nearly every serious emotional problem can be seen as a case of misdirected instinct. Ooh, I like the way that's said. When that happens, our great natural assets, the instincts, have turned into physical and mental liabilities. Step 4 is a vigorous and painstaking effort to discover what these liabilities in each of us have been and are. Dun, dun, dun. We want to find exactly how and when our natural desires have warped us. We wish to look squarely at the unhappiness this has caused others and ourselves by discovering what our emotional deformities are. We can move toward their correction without a willing and persistent effort to do this, there can be little sobriety or contentment for us. Without a searching and fearless moral inventory, most of us have found that the faith which really works in daily living is still out of reach. I'm going to jump into 5. I'm going to read quickly, and then I'm going to get back into the big book. So in step 4, page 50, second paragraph, by now the newcomer has probably arrived at the following conclusions: that his character defects representing instincts gone astray have been the primary cause of his drinking and his failure at life. That unless he is now willing to work hard at the elimination of the worst of these defects, both sobriety and peace of mind will elude him, that all the faulty foundation of his life will have been torn out and built anew on bedrock. Now willing to commence the search for his own defects, he will ask, just how do I go about this? How do I take inventory of myself? I'm going to get that, because I'm about to do that because I'm overdue. So I'm going to show you what I'm going to do. I'm just going to read the end, last paragraph. Therefore, thoroughness ought to be the watchword when taking inventory. In this connection, it is wise to write out our questions and answers. It will be an aid to clear thinking and honest appraisal. It will be the first tangible evidence of our complete willingness to move forward. All right, so I'm going back to this. I was going to do a step 10, and I am going to do a step 10. My book is such a fucking mess. It's unbelievable. They say that though, the addict, if the literature isn't falling apart, the addict might be. So it's time for me to get back into it. And yes, I do. I feel very, very lucky that I have not picked up. I'm also incredibly lucky. I just forgot to do like my gratitude list lately. So in 65, how it works, we have how you do your step 4. Now, when I first did my first step 4, I did the whole I'm resentful at the causes affects mine, okay? And then as soon as I went and showed it to my sponsor, we immediately did my step 5. So we had already done step 5 in the big book and the 12 and 12. But when I went to do my 4, we did my 4, 5 all in one go. So I didn't have any wiggle room to get out of my part. And it was interesting because I was held accountable to things I did not expect to be held accountable to, which changed the trajectory of my life, my thinking, and the way I see myself and the way that I see the world. It really was, when they talk about leaving the kids' table and going into the adult table, yeah, without a doubt. But also going into a place where I found that people-pleasing was a problem for me, that nodding my head and smiling like everything is okay when it's not, was part of my problem, you know, and not being able to kind of confront things too. And I always find myself in these situations. It's kind of funny, like you get tested in life with the things that are your biggest problem. For me, my biggest problem is confrontation. You know, I usually don't want to confront people. I don't want to bother them. I don't want to hurt them. You know, if they know where they want something, they know where I am. You know, but when I need something, I'm so used to getting shut down. I'm so used to get the fuck out of here that I just kind of do that, right? So I'm not really, you know, and I don't say that to be rude or to guilt trip or anything like that. I just feel like, so that when I do ask for things, you know, sometimes I really am like a big fucking baby about shit too, you know, when I finally get my way. So I flip-flop between being very infantile about my selfishness and my self-centeredness and what I'm entitled to not feeling good enough at all, you know, if that makes any sense. And I think a lot of people go through that. I don't think I'm necessarily unique or terminally cool in that. I think most people are like that. Most people get that. So that was really, really important for me to do. And that's an exercise that I'm actually going to get back on, because I noticed I was just getting super fucking dry. And I don't think it's really great to do step work on your own, but it's better than nothing, right? Like if it gets between me and a drink, yeah, like, and whatever program you're accessing, it doesn't matter, because a lot of people, they're not really that concerned. You know, I was talking to someone last week about voting, you know, and how you vote and how I didn't really care. Like when I went to shows back in the day, I knew that there were people from different walks of life. Like when I went to like Lollapalooza, you know, I knew there were people who were like very leftist, very communist. I didn't care, I didn't say anything. And then I knew there were people coming in from the fucking military, like from my friends' cadets militia, like after school. You know what I mean? Like, and none of us really cared because it was considered rude back in the day, like to ask who you voted for. But now things are very, they're just different. That's it. But, you know, I again, like learning to change and adapt and be mindful of that people are going to have their beliefs, their views, their filter through which they see life based on the experiences that they've had in life. And that I have to be very responsive to that. You know, I can't expect them to see things the way I see things. I can't expect the world to change around me and evolve around me. You know, I have to be responsive to that. That's just important. That's just a fact of life. That's just not being a fucking dick. Not my strong suit. So I could go from this place of being a people pleaser from a selfish place and also overlooking my basic needs to expecting the world to revolve around me. How fucking crazy is that? How fucking sick alcoholic is that? Like garden variety alcoholic bullshit is that? All right, let's go to page 86. Alcoholics Anonymous, big book, 4th edition. We're gonna do a cautionary tale for alcoholics and addicts everywhere. So when we retire tonight and constructively review our day, were we resentful? I was a hot mess today. I couldn't show it. I was a hot mess yesterday. I had a wonderful weekend last week, and I've been puttering around doing stuff all week, getting ready for this guy to come in and spray. But there's been a lot of other chaotic stuff happening, and I'm trying to kind of maintain it, but I realized I was really just kind of taking the bait and still getting entrenched in it. And you know, there's this saying, don't argue with stupid people. They will pull you down to their level and beat you with their experience. This also has to do with narcissists, alcoholics, addicts, abusive exes, abusive relationships, anything, right? So I wasted a lot of time. I didn't have a lot of energy, and I wasted a lot of time this week getting pulled into that shit and beaten by their experience, you know, realizing that I was trying to bring a knife to a gunfight or a gun to a cannon fight or a space laser or whatever. I just was not well equipped to deal with it. And it was no one's fault but mine. It really was. I was in that position of, I can't fight this, right? I can't fight the apex predator, and I have to stop railing against it, period. Every time I'm being baited, I have to stop taking the bait. And it's up to me 100%. It has nothing to do, it does have to do with them. But when it comes to this situation right now, I have to shut the fuck up and just live with it. There's no other way around it. And it's okay. It's not okay, but it's going to be more okay if I'm not engaging the drama and the chaos, if I'm not showing up as part of the problem instead of engaging the solution, which is disengaging and not feeding this shit any fucking more, because this has been decades of this crap. And it has been chaotic, like a fucking train wreck. Anyways, everyone's got their train wreck. Everyone's got their violin. I have one too. So I got very confused this week. I did not take my hormones because I'm on hormone therapy now because I'm 51, and I highly recommend it. Holy shit. I wish I'd taken it when I was like 37. I really wish I'd started. There's such a huge part of my mental health, just maintenance, that has to do with dealing with my hormones. But I didn't take them properly for a few days, and I did find myself a little bit off, right? And then yesterday, I didn't realize it. I was kind of like sleepwalking because I haven't been sleeping very well. Like I'm still spraying the bed bugs. I'm still getting them out of the mattress and out of the bedding, but every now and then I get bit. I don't sleep so well. I get itchy. I don't know if it's psychological or what. People say it's psychological. They can't find anything. I feel infested. And I did just find one on my suitcase, so I have to go and wipe everything down again. So it's been causing me a lot of stress. and I'm not thinking. And when I don't think, I go, my worst thinking gets me into trouble because I'm not thinking. It's like Scott R says in one of his talks, what were you thinking before you went and shot heroin again or picked up that drink? Nothing. I was thinking nothing. And that was my state. So I went and I texted someone yesterday and I had no idea who the fuck they were. But I texted them some kind of shit because I was really fucking mad. Somebody wanted money. They wanted me to pay down something that my ex had taken out in my name. My criminal injuries was cut and they're still coming to me for the money. I've got the fucking medical cartel all over me wanting to make more money off my ass again. I'm like, fucking 16 years ago, I needed to pay these debts down and you still want more fucking money from me? Bitch, please, I need to go back to work. But being in these different types of situations where I've been in arguments where I literally had to physically fight my way out of situations that were very oppressive. Boo-hoo, again, the whole world is going through shit. But yeah, it was very... It was scary. Anyways, I had to fight my way out. I had to use my reptilian brain to get the fuck out. And then I had to learn to calm my nervous system. And that took years. And it was really scary because a lot of people who were looking out for me are no longer around anymore. So, when I say that I love harm reduction people, or I love people who access harm reduction, I'm not joking. There are a lot of people who are actively using 5 years ago, 10 years ago, and even today, who look out for me, who sponsor me and take care of me. And then there's people who are going to rob me fucking blind. And then there's people who don't drink. A horse thief is still a horse thief. They just don't drink anymore. And they still rob me the fuck blind. So really just being more engaged with trusting my intuition about a person, place, or thing. You look back at something, I should have trusted that intuition. I didn't think, because I don't have that mind-body connection, right? A lot of us have lost that mind-body connection. So getting that mind-body connection back is a very strange experience, right? But it's also incredibly helpful too. I survived a lot of people who were smarter than me, who were nicer than me, who were stronger than me, who were more adept than me. The only thing I really had going for me was that I looked out for myself. I put myself first for the first time ever. And if I had an intuition that something was wrong, I decided to follow my intuition and no matter what, not pick up a drink and not pick up an opioid, no matter what. That's all I fucking did. And then I went to meetings and people tried to push me out. And I picked up literature and people tried to push me out of doing this on this space. And it was hell. It was hell on wheels. But again, I have a story like a lot of alcoholics of woe, right? We all have these stories of woe and coming to a place, leaving terminally unique, fatally cool land and coming to garden variety alcoholic land can be one of the most incredibly right-sizing and amazingly wonderful events that could ever happen because we go from catastrophizing to, oh, Tuesday. Yeah, for real. So getting back to that and realizing that I had dumped and I didn't even know what I'd said. And I think I even left a voice recording too. I was shook. I was like, I don't know who the hell I just texted. Do I block their number? Do I text them back? Do I say sorry? Do I tell them like I'm part crazy? What if they phone my ex-psychiatrist? She was a bitch. She just wanted to make money off me. I still have these bills to pay off 16 years later and she made so much money off me. I need to make money now. I can't fuck around. Why do I keep doing this to myself? Why do I keep self-sabotaging? Right? So I had to look at my part in that, and that was not easy. That was not, because I had like an infantile just dump fest and I had no idea who I had dumped on. Zero, right? So I'm not sure if I'm going to call back or I'm going to apologize or text an apology and then block their number or change mine, which is also a very infantile response. But I am going to think about it. I am going to meditate on it and I am going to do an inventory on it and then see what my part is and what the best thing an adult recovery, alcoholic in recovery, what's most appropriate for me to do? To work a solution, right? And to make amends. Because that's what's most important, right? I'm not running from my problems. I'm not denying what I did, right? I'm turning around and I'm saying, yeah, no, I think I just fucked up. I'm sorry. That must have been fucking sick, dude. I get lonely sometimes. Sometimes I just go off like a shut-in. But you know, I can't do that all the time, right? Real. I can't expect the rest of the world to turn around me. You know, the world doesn't revolve around me, right? I heard someone say that, you know, get off the cross, Jesus. We need the wood. We're not fit for righteous anger. I know I'm not. It's all right to go to a show and have a good time and scream and yell. But when it comes to actual righteous anger, you know, where there's seemingly plausible yet untrue reasons to justify and rationalize really sick, shitty, fucking underhanded behavior to get into a fight, just to rage. Go to a metal show and scream. Way better. Don't drink, don't drug. Try not to be a fucking dick, right? Or do as least harm as possible. Do no harm, but take no shit. Take no shit, but do no harm, right? And don't add to it. You know, we talk about a carbon footprint, and we talk about physical hygiene, but we don't talk about, you know, an emotional footprint of how our actions, our behaviors, and our words kind of leave others feeling, you know, or you know, emotional hygiene, right? And this is part of my emotional hygiene. I've been doing it on the app, but I haven't been doing a solid 4 or 5, right? I haven't been investing, and because I wasn't investing in my program, in myself, you know, I was really starting to feel off, and I was really starting to feel sick. And it's amazing how fast we can feel ourselves go downhill and feel so hopeless and helpless about things that really aren't as big a deal as we're making it, right? Mountains and molehills. So constructively review our day. Were we resentful? So I was resentful at myself and the way I reacted. And I decided that I'm gonna have to do better. Selfish. More than likely, I'm an alcoholic and an addict in recovery. Dishonest. Not to my knowledge, but I've noticed I've been a little less TMI lately, and I'm trying to get less TMI, because if I don't know, speculatively is just minutia. You know, if I don't have an actual concrete fact about anything, I really don't have a right to open my fucking mouth. And that's the long and short of it, right? Until I know, I know. Until I don't know, I don't know. And that's the smartest answer. I don't fucking know, right? When I don't know, don't pretend I fucking know. That's a bad idea. All right, so dishonest, not to my knowledge, afraid. Oh yeah. And what's fear an acronym for? Fuck everything and run, or face everything and rise. Okay, so I gotta stop being a little fucking baby about shit. I might have to text them back, call them back, and just say, like, this has been really bad. I shouldn't have dumped on you like this, but this is exactly the situation I'm going through. Unfortunately, as crazy and shitty as this book, novella is, and I wish I could afford to go to school and you know, do like some kind of animation thing, and then we could have those animation books, you know, and then you can make like a V for Vendetta movie, and we can make some money, and I can pay down these fucking debts. It's not gonna happen, right? Because the whole point was I was being threatened by a company that I had been abused by, and they don't want me working. They want me dead. And that was a threat, right? And our laws and our system and our government is bought out by them. Okay. So again, you know, losing faith in our system. You know, I found myself going into that down spiral of depression. I can't trust anyone to do right. Except that I can't trust them to do the next fucking right thing, that they've never done the next right thing. They're not going to fucking change overnight. Now what am I doing about it? When we talk about how shifts happen, because shifts can happen. If I just shift my thinking into that gear, I don't have to succumb to the depression and the self-pity And the bitter fucking morass that leads me to that first drink, or having to anesthetize the emotional pain, again, of being just shat on by life. World's smallest violin. I'm not working, as an artisanal child miner in the Congo, right? So I'm not demeaning myself or my experience, but at the same time, there's worse going on out there. There's a lot of people would kill to have my problems. There's kids out there who would kill to have my problems. Unfortunately, a lot right now who need and don't have, proper dads at home. If they're not in refugee camps, they're being fucking deployed for war. It's horrible. We got to start keeping the men at home. Again, my opinion, which is like an asshole. Everybody has one. And obviously I think I'm fucking right because I'm the queen of my own mind. But, I do. I think we need more dads at home. Even if they're not the actual dad. I don't know what this light's doing. All right. Where are we? Resentful, dishonest, afraid. Okay. So I got through that. Do I owe an apology? Yeah, if I'm an adult, I'm not going to run. Now, I know adults who would run for that. I don't know what the fuck you mean. I know adults with 45 years. I don't know what the fuck you mean, bitch. That's one way to deal with it, I'm going to have to think about it. Check my motives and see, do I really need to apologize? Yeah, maybe I do. But if I don't, how am I going to respond to how I behaved, how I became emotionally unstable? How do I make amends for that? And how do I right-size that? Or how do I correct that as I go? Really important stuff. It doesn't seem important in the moment, but it's all part of growing up, right? And I am 51, so I'm thinking it's time. All right. Have we kept something to ourselves which should be discussed with another person at once? No. All good, right? All good, boo. I just talk that shit out. I'm good. Not everyone's good. Sometimes people need to go deeper. Sometimes people need to talk in more specific language, and that's okay too. You don't always have to admit names, dates, times, locations, etc., specifics. So you don't always have to, although it is helpful because sometimes step 4 or 5 can be weaponized. But I'll tell you something, there's nothing quite like being able to just dump and say, this is what I did, this is what happened, and this is what I need to correct. And speaking in exact terms, very plain English of where I fucked up or where someone fucked me over, and then working the solution from there. For me, that was a game changer because I didn't really ever have anyone like that in my life. So it was kind of weird because my sponsor was younger than me, but she was kind of like such a mom, I really needed that. It really changed the way I thought and feel about stuff. So even today, though I don't see her, talk to her much, she's in another city, she's got another life going on, I still remember how I felt after that first 4, 5. And it wasn't just about me being a victim or me being victim blamed or shamed, because a lot of people get turned off the program from that too, where you're forced to make amends to your abuser. There's way too much of that going on. So many women have left the fucking program, and that is a good reason to leave the program, unfortunately. Because we don't think like men. Alcoholic women are not the same as alcoholic men. We're different species. Whether it's the street whore or the trophy wife. I like to think of the common denominator is Sharon Stone's character Ginger in the movie Casino. She's the common denominator. Most women, whether they worked the streets or they had to be the trophy wife, they all relate to Sharon Stone in Casino. We all get it when she loses her shit on him. And then the guys are like, how the fuck does he put up? Look what he did for her. How could she fucking shit on him like that? And we're all sitting there, we're like, if you only fucking knew, right? Because only we know. But does that mean we get to carry on like that? Well, I always wanted to carry on like that. I mean, I was never in S&M, but if I wanted to role play something, yeah, that fucking scene's awesome, man. That was pretty good. But I can also watch it anytime I want to, so it was so good. They really fought in that. Did you know? So anyways, have we kept something to ourselves which should be discussed with another person at once? No. We're kind and loving toward all? No. We could have done better. Exercise. Exercise, exercise, exercise. I have so little motivation right now because I have not been sleeping right. My brain has been all over the place. I wasn't taking my hormones properly, so I'm not as consistent as I'd like to be with the amount of effort that I'd like to be putting out there into the world. And I've also had some really bad flare-ups this week. I had to ask for help. My doctor told me, my nurse doctor told me I can't keep taking naproxen all the time. It's going to rot my stomach. And I've had stomach issues before. I'm going to have to go see a pain specialist. I don't want to do it. But then I started looking at like all these different types of braces. Let me show you. If this isn't an old person thing to do, I don't know what it is. All right, so I need a back brace for my upper back. Do you see that? My ODSP might pay for it. Wouldn't that be nice? So instead of like being hunched, I'll finally like have my ballerina back, just for a little bit anyways. And also, do you know what else I need? Do you want to know? This is so exciting. I need something for my left knee. I might need something for my lower back too, but I think I'm okay for now. As long as I like start doing more like ab work and stuff like that. I also learned some really cool yoga tutorials this week, which I have to practice more of. I'm really lucky to have internet access. I need something for my ankles, both of them, because they go snappy. Sometimes the barometric pressure here is so crazy. Snap, crackle, pop, everywhere. Anyways, yeah, if all works out, walking pads. Since I've lost a little weight, my foot doesn't flare up as badly as it used to. I've started doing rises again. When I was really, really super over-medicated, I had kind of lost the ability to really work my lower body, my lower legs, my abdomen. My lower back was in bad shape. Everything was in bad shape. I had been in an accident with a truck where a truck rolled over my foot 3 times. Broke it. I'm lucky to have a foot attached still. But it took years for me to be able to run again, which was something I love to do, you know. And it felt like my spirit was broken. Like part of me was in hiding because I had been so immobilized, and I felt very resentful, you know, having these scars, right? Having multiple head injuries and then having been hobbled. I felt like there was this evil misogynist fucking pig who needed to die, who was constantly out hating on me and hating on my body and wanting to break my soul and break my body at the same time. And I felt very persecuted, you know, like a victim. And then I decided that I needed to start trying to push through the pain, right? So I needed to start dealing with my pain, and also pushing through a comfortable edge. So having to go back to my ballet days when I used to do rises and plies, having to do that, getting into some squats, getting into other ways where I could actually work my feet, work my ankles, and the snapping and the snap, crackle, popping, just horrible, and the pain excruciating. But am I getting more mind-body connection back in my feet, back in my legs, back in my abdomen? At my age, that's a gift, especially after being a walking coma, right, for so many years. That's a huge gift. So I can't afford to go off like that, right, and then end up comatose again in that state, right? I have to be smarter than that. So I have to practice my emotional hygiene because someone's going to do it for me. No one's responsible if I pick up a drink, right? That's what it comes down to at the end of the day. So if I'm not dealing with my disease, somehow, somewhere, through some program, you know, it's going to deal with me. Kind of living toward all. No, but I'm trying to get better. I'm trying to just be nice and around and supportive, but not be in people's faces. I've decided I'm going to try and give people space. If they want to come talk to me, they can talk to me. If they don't have to. It's all good. Because I'm not the boss of anyone. It's so fucked to say that, but I'm not. I'm not even the boss of me. But I am more of a boss of me than other people, or other people would like to think. But I'm not the boss of other people, right? You know, I can't, realistically, if I really want to live an emotionally healthy life and not get into the alcoholic, abusive, megalomaniacal thinking that I am entitled to boss people around, to violate privacy or violate their human rights or their civil rights, you know, or hurt them in ways, you know, or use provocation or reactive abuse, you know, to justify and rationalize violent or shitty behavior, you know. So just kind of taking it back a bit, trying to rein it in a bit, not be so too much, right? Kind of loving toward all. What could we have done better? I don't fucking know. More tutorials. I'm going to do more. The night is but young. I still have so much cleaning to do. Oh, it's only 7:39. Nerd. Dork. It's a brown noser with my AA homework. It's the only homework I ever really gave a fuck about. The highest mark I ever got on any like score on any test was, are you an alcoholic? My Smart Serve exam for my bartenders of Ontario bartending certificate license, and are you autistic? Asperger's. I got the bonus questions on that, and are you an alcoholic? Isn't that fun? I think it's fun. Maybe it's not fun, but it's fun to say it's fun. I kind of look toward all now. What could we have done better? Oh shit, I did this already. Yoga tutorials. There's some good ones I just saw. We're thinking of ourselves most of the time. No, we're thinking of what we do for others back in the stream of life. Yes, I think so, but I don't know if I'm right. So I'm trying to stay focused on what's in front of me, you know. And we talk about it. Fucking dog. Shh, why'd you do that? No, she's not beating her dog. No, she wouldn't do that, ever. She always does. She makes a dog bark when she gets in my fucking door. She's such a fucking bitch. Anyways. But we must be careful not to drift into worry, remorse, morbid reflection, for that would diminish our usefulness to others. After making our review, we ask God's forgiveness and inquire what corrective measures could or should be taken. That was like if Ed Brumley did like an Alcoholics Anonymous, like fucking. Ed Brumley was this. He did a step 10. Ed Brumley was this character on SCTV. It was a show I grew up on. It was really good. Anyways, so that's my story, and I'm sticking to it. I feel a lot better. How do you feel? Now that you listened to me talk about me. Because enough about me. Let's talk about me. And with that, I'll wish you another 24 hours of continuous sobriety recovery. And just know that if you do want to engage literature, I encourage you to do it. Just do it. If it gets between you, a drink and a drug, you know, why not? You know, it's better to try something like this and maybe not do it perfectly, but not engage that fatal bag or pick up that next drink than it is to be doing what you usually do and wishing you could be doing this. And with that, I'm going to say thank you, and I'll wish you another 24 hours.